Um, at what point, when you were a school teacher, because you talk about the transition, obviously, from school teacher to comedian, but at what point did you decide, I think I can make a living at this and I can give up teaching? Because as you said, um, teaching provides insurance and
Mm-hmm.
paid time off and things like that. And if you decide to make that leap, um, it's it's a flip of a coin, really. So, at what point did what? I guess my question is what clicked with you to say that I can do this. I can make this leap.
So I tell people when in 2010, I worked with a comedian who's doing quite well. His name is Jay Black,
Mm-hmm.
and we worked together at a Comedy Zone, which is a little chain of comedy clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, buddy, I'll be honest with you. I think you're great. Have you ever performed at a college? And I said, oh man, I've never done a college. I would love to. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know. And he goes, well, I have a college agent and I'm going to put you in touch with him because I think you'd be great. I think you would do really well at colleges. So he, gave me Rob's number. I called Rob. We had a little meeting and I signed with that college agency. And then I did a showcase and I booked from that showcase 47 schools. And I basically, Zach, replaced my teaching income with those 47 schools. So
Amazing.
I always tell people I was making $39,600 a year as a first year teacher at Rolling Ridge Elementary. My average price for those 44 schools or 45 schools was around $1,100. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I made more money doing just those schools than had I taught full time. And all of those schools, Zach, were in about a 3-month period. They were essentially the spring semester. I'm sorry, the fall semester of the following year of
Right.
2011. So I came back and I sat my wife down and I said, well, she was my fiance at the time. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, look, I have this pit in my stomach. I feel like, I don't know what to do. I said, I've got this money. It's about $50,000. I'm making more money. But after I do these shows, I've got nothing on the books. I've got nothing else going on. And like I've been working at some clubs, Zach, but the clubs were paying $300 to $400 a week. I wasn't making any real money because I wasn't headlining a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife said, look, we're going to get married. I'm going to have insurance. I'm going to have dental. I'm going to have a retirement. Why don't you take a sabbatical for a year and just do this? Do it. You're going to listen. If everything doesn't work out, which I don't think that's going to happen, but let's say it does, you can go back to teaching and you can always say, I gave it a shot. But if you don't do it, you will always wonder for the rest of your life, what would it have been like had I done it? She goes, you need to take this opportunity because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to resent me or our kids that we might have in the future or your family because you never took the leap. Take the leap. Like, we've got a safety net. I support you. Take the leap. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And Zach, I have to tell you, man, everything, all the stars aligned. I started working casinos. I started doing a lot of colleges. That was basically my bread and butter for about 8 years. 3 years into me being full time, doing colleges and clubs and casinos and things like that, I worked with another comic. His name was Lewis Johnson, and we worked together at a comedy club. He headlined, I featured, and he goes, "Man, I'll be honest with you. You people love you. Your act is very well rounded." And he said, by that I mean everybody likes you. Black people like you. Hispanic people like you, white people like you, old people like you, young people like you. He goes, it's a very well-rounded act. Have you ever worked on a cruise ship? And I said, I've actually got an interview with a cruise agency in 3 days. And he goes, well, listen, I'm part of a cruise agency. It's a smaller agency, but you'll get more FaceTime. Like anytime you call, you'll talk to the main booker. Her name is Dee. Would you want to talk to her? And I said, sure, I'll talk. I had a great conversation with Dee, and I ended up signing with her, and we worked together for over a decade. And she got me on, together we got on Royal Caribbean and Norwegian and Carnival and Celebrity Cruise Lines. And that, Zach, that really put me from one category into another. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially those are all corporate shows. And, they pay very well. They fly you in. They get you a hotel the night before. They reimburse all of your Ubers there and back, from the port to the airport and to your home. And, and they pay you very well. And so when I got on these lines, it put me in a different tax bracket and in a different mentality for what I wanted to do. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then while I was doing that, I had the whole experience on the cruise ships with, some of the people that didn't speak English walking out. And I thought, how do I fix this problem? And that's when I wrote Lesson Plans to Late Night. I have done that show on cruise ships, but what I started doing in 2016 was I started booking myself into theaters, performing arts centers, just like the Millwald. And I would literally cold call theaters and go, hi, my name is Lucas Bohn. I'm a comedian. I have this show, Lesson Plans to Late Night. Can I send you some information about it? They would say yes. I would send them a press kit, and we would do a deal. And I would come to these little, I don't do 3,000-seat theaters, Zach. I do 200 to 600-seat venues, but we sell very well. It goes very well. People like it, and that's all I care about, buddy. I want to do a good show. Everybody wants to perform in the big room. I have a very blessed life. I love coming out and just doing a show and having a great time. And so that's kind of how I ended up in the mill. I literally emailed Donnie. It was a cold call or a cold email. I never met him. I just said, who's the director at the Millwald? And he goes, oh, I am. My name's Donnie. And I said, hey, Donnie, can I send you some info about this show I do? And he said, sure. And I sent it to him, and he emailed me back, hey, we love this. This looks great. What do you need to come here? Like, what's your price? And we kind of negotiated out, and I'm going to be there on February 7th, so it's going to be a good time.
Well, and I'm so glad you're going to be here. Congratulations on your success. You have given hope to $12 a week editorial columnists like myself to keep to keep reaching for the brass ring, even though I'm 40 years old.
Well, hey, listen, this is what I always tell people, Zach. Dreams never die, buddy. I always tell people this, and it's a great story. Lewis Black, who is a very famous comedian now.
I'm a big fan.
He was on that movie about emotions, the Pixar one that they just released a second one. My daughter loves that.
Inside Out, yes.
Inside Out, that's right. And so he's done a bunch of other voiceover work. Lewis Black I think he graduated from Yale as a playwright and wrote plays for 30 years, buddy, and never made never hit it big, He was in his 50s when someone came to him from The Daily Show and said, man, I saw you at a comedy club and you did a rant. You should call this guy. He has this show. His name is Jon Stewart. You should put together like 3 minutes of a rant on a subject and just see if they'll let you. And that's what he did. He put a rant together, and they called it Black on Black. And he just would rant about whatever. It's really, blah, 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 the whole Lewis Black thing,
Yeah.
And that's how he got his start. He went from being a no-name playwright to, overnight. And he was a comedian. I mean, like, he was doing comedy, but he wasn't famous,
Right.
And that's kind of how he got his start. Now he's doing voiceovers for Pixar, and he's selling out theaters, and he's been in a couple movies and TV shows, and, like, that man was in his 50s. Rodney Dangerfield was 52 when he, quote-unquote, made it. He tried to do it in his 20s and 30s, was essentially a failure, gave up and opened up a paint store in New York, and worked like at essentially like a hardware store that he owned, and stopped doing stand-up. And then about 14 years later, was just having a conversation with a guy at the cash register, and he's making this guy laugh. He's cracking him up. Rodney's, I'll tell you what, I get no respect here. No respect at all. What's the deal? People come in here. What's the deal? I'm looking good. I'm ugly. My mom doesn't even, she doesn't breastfeed me. She says we're just friends, like, and the guy goes, oh, you're so funny. You should be a comedian. And he's, I was, but I didn't make it. I wasn't any good. And so he went and he did like an open mic a couple years later, and he changed his name to Dangerfield, and he walked on stage in a suit and a red tie, and he did his stuff, and he became a thing. And he did that in the later part of his life. He did not do it when he was younger. So I always tell people, man, the show isn't over, Zach, until the fat lady sings.
Amen.
And you still got time, buddy, as we all do.
Amen. And my wife is a singer. She's a fantastic singer, and she turns 40 this year, and she knows she's gonna make it. And I'm right behind her, saying, yes, absolutely, you will, as long as you believe you will. And and that is and your story is very inspiring. And I have to go back, if I can, for just a moment. You did the Rodney Dangerfield thing perfectly, and that brings me back to your ability to do voices and accents and things. So I want to ask you this very specific question: is your sister allowing you to talk to your nephew Aaron yet?
So it's actually my brother-in-law. So yes, Aaron is now, believe it or not, Aaron is now 18. He is joining the fire department at the end of the year. He's going to graduate, and he's joining the Denver fire department. They live in Denver, Colorado now. And but yeah, Aaron and I are two peas from the pod. I have multiple stories about Aaron and I growing up, because he was a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, little baby just like me. And I tell people, we're the same person 29 and a half years apart.
Yeah, he was Uncle Lucas's buddy.
Yeah, we got in. We occasionally got into trouble, but always had fun.
Yeah, absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
And
it started with the Elmo thing, right?
So growing up, he was the youngest of three. So he always got the hand-me-down toys. Right. To the point, Zach, where they would sometimes, before Christmas, they would go through the boys' rooms. He's got two older brothers, and they would take toys that they didn't play with anymore because they were older, and they would literally just rewrap the toys that the boys used to play with and give it to Aaron, because he was like 2.5 or 3. He didn't know any better. He didn't know whose toys they were.
Right.
And so they had an original Tickle Me Elmo, but this had been Kyle's. He's the oldest, and then it had been passed down to Ryan. He's the middle, and now it was going to Aaron. And so it was a well-loved, well-worn, well-played-with toy. And it didn't always work well. You had to kind of like shake it, or it had to be just right, because, again, it was the original one, and it had been used 4 or 5 years. You know what I'm saying? It had been well used.
So you had to step in.
We're visiting them over Christmas, and he opens this up and gets all excited because it's Tickle Me Elmo. And we try to get it to work, and it won't work. We put new batteries in it, and he's going, Elmo, and it's not working, and he starts to cry. And so I just real quick I go over and I take the Elmo and I turn it to him and I go, "Hey, Aaron, how are you doing? I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna love you." And his eyes just like lit up.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole family stopped and turned and they went, "Did you do that?" And I went,
Right.
"Oh yeah, I do little voices and impressions, but my wife had never heard me do an impression,
It was
you know."
it
And
was
then,
it was
yeah,
it was almost like the talking Tina thing from Twilight Zone. Everybody was
that's
spooked
right.
for a minute.
Yeah. And they were like, "You should do some of those on stage."
Exactly.
And I said, "Oh, no, I'm not real good. It's just, you're just being nice because you're my family." And they were like, "Listen to me. We thought that was the toy. We didn't think that was you. Like, it's now that we know it was you, that's really good." So I made 4 or 5, impressions that I could do. One of them was, "Listen here, Bobby. This is Hank Hill selling propane and propane accessories. I tell you what, I'm going to go walk Lady Bird, and then me and Boomhauer. Boomhauer, say something. Dang old man, I tell you what, man, go out there, man, have a couple cold beers, man, go walk on dang old Lady Bird, man, give him propane. Hey, shoot, man, that dang old good time, man." And like, I would just do impressions,
Right.
and it just started. It went really, really well. I had always done impressions, Zach, my entire life, but I never thought I was good enough to like call myself an impressionist. It was just something that I did. I would do, I would hear an accent and I would try to mimic it. "Oh my God, I'm going to tell you right now, don't come to me like that. Oh my, this guy right here are going to tell, don't, And so I would just practice,
Mm-hmm.
And I used to work at my front desk in a college, at my college, checking people in and out at night. And I had a phone. I had to answer the phone. And if any kids had questions or concerns, they could call the front desk, and the operator, who was me, would answer the phone. And I would answer the phone as different cartoon characters every day. So, like, I would literally have a picture that I would put up at the desk. And if anybody had a question, I would answer the question in the voice of the cartoon character. So, like, I did, like, Stewie Griffin from Family Guy, because that
Right.
was really big back then. Like,
Yeah.
look at this guy here. He's calling. You looking for your pizza? You looking for your pizza? Yeah? You ordered that from Domino's? Yeah? Well, you're not getting that. I ate that pizza. It's gone. You're not going to get it. Goodbye. And and they all, okay, Lucas is having fun, and they'd go down. Or, I would do it as Herbert, also from Family Guy. "Say there, young boy. Did you order a pizza from Domino's? Well, it's at the front desk. Why don't you come down and get it?" And so
Right.
just fun stuff, just having a good time, and that's kind of where I started experimenting with the voices, and now that I have kids and they're into cartoons again, we will watch Scooby Doo, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm Zoe and Sandra, let's check it out. Let's go get some Scooby snacks," and
Mm.
oh, let's get out of here. you know,
Right.
it's just fun, like,
Yeah.
and my kids love it, and they think it's silly.
Yeah.
And it was something that, I would read to my daughter at night, and I would do voices
Yeah.
in the storybooks, "In a galaxy far, far away, one
Yeah.
bad must face the evil," and I would do the voices, and, "Oh no, there's a bad man in this thing, help me," and I would do, and it would make her laugh and giggle, and it became more and more of a thing that I did all the time,
Yeah. Yep. And the Elmo thing got you a lot of leverage with your nephews.
Yeah, so I was the favorite uncle by far. Like, there was no one even close.
Absolutely. And so you just found the Millwald. You've never been to Wytheville before, right?
So I've never been to, and you know what? I thought it was called Wytheville. So no, I have never been to Wytheville before. I've never been to the Millwall, but I've done some smaller theaters throughout Virginia. I normally, my wife, believe it or not, went to Virginia Tech. So we've been in the Blacksburg. I've done the Hokie House before. and I've done, some in Roanoke. They have a funny business. It used to be Star City Comedy Club.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around Virginia and performed at some areas, but I'd never been to the Millwald. And again, all I did was I did a Google search, all of the theaters in Virginia, and the Millwald was one of them. I sent an email, hey, I'm going to be in your area. I'm in Virginia. I'd love to do a gig. Can we make it work? And Donnie was able to say, yeah, we can do it. So here we are.
Well, I am so glad that he did, and I'm so glad that he called me and said, would you please interview this guy? Because it has been a thrill and a pleasure and an honor, really. I became a fan within 24 hours.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Zach.
And I really, with these voices, I want to give you one of the novels I wrote and let you do the audio book for it. I just, to see what you do with my characters, And
I believe it or not, when I lived in New York, Zach, I did. For a very quick amount of time, I did some voiceover work, and so I'd love to read a chapter. I did a short story from New York Times best-selling author Sean Cosby. He wrote Blacktop Wasteland and Razorblade Tears. These were all on the Barack Obama summer reading lists and the Oprah Winfrey summer reading lists, and it was on the top 10 best books of the year.
Fantastic.
And he actually went to Matthews High School, so he's from my hometown. And I just called him up one day and said, "Hey, buddy, I'd like to try to do a voiceover. Can I read one of your stories?" And he said, "Absolutely. Here, read this one." And so I read. It was about a 11-minute short story that he wrote. And I thought I did a really good job. And it was really fun to kind of put my own spin on those characters. And then when he heard it, he was like, "This is pretty good, man. I like this." So it was really cool. Because now he sold the rights to some of his books to Tyler Perry. And so they own the rights. They're going to apparently make one of the books into a miniseries, like an 8-part miniseries, and then he's now writing a comic book with Questlove from the Jimmy Fallon show.
Oh yeah, love the Roots, love Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. So anyway, I was very excited to do that. So absolutely, man, I'd love to read one of your novels and do a chapter or two and see what we can do. So yeah, man.
Well, it would be my honor, trust me, because I'm lucky if my book sells 50 copies, I'm doing well. So this is where we are. But it's been a real pleasure to talk to you and an honor, and I'm thrilled to get to see your show on the 7th, and I hope that we can meet after and take a picture maybe.
I would love to, buddy. And if you send me a link to this, if it's going to be on a podcast or a newspaper or a whatever, I will definitely share it on my social media and on my site, and thank you personally, tag you in it. But yeah, man, I'm excited. This is going to be a really, really fun show. And I always tell people, it's one of those shows where people leave and they go, "I didn't know if I was going to like that. Like, I didn't really know what the show was going to be." But this is one of the best comedy experiences I've ever had. And I tell people, because it's not a traditional comedy show. It's not me just standing there doing stand-up for 90 minutes. It is like a one-man show, but it's got the multimedia, it's got the voices, it's got the examples of student work. And so when I'm done, people feel like I know that guy. Like, I feel like I can have a coffee or a beer with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. We would hang out the whole time. It'd be a really fun experience. And again, going back to the first thing that I said about comedy, it's all about relatability, Zach. If you can relate to somebody, you can be friends with them. You can find common ground, and the world will be a better place.
And that's how I felt when I watched your specials, and now I have the privilege to have been talking to you for the last 48 minutes, and that's been a real gift for me.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you took the time, and I'm glad I got to meet you, and I can't wait to see you on February
The
is it
7th.
Yeah.
Yes.
February 7th, Saturday, February 7th at 7:30 p.m., I believe.
Yep.
Millwald Theatre in Wytheville?
In Wytheville, as in W-I-T-H. But it's
Wytheville, Virginia. And I will see you there. I'll be wearing my Hokie hat, my baseball cap before the show. And I'll see you guys then. All right?
Great. I'm looking forward to it. God bless you, sir.
I appreciate you, Zach. I'll see you then.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.